Today, Alex and I are going to be talking about what it's like to be a couple who are interested together in spirituality. Because sometimes you and I are in bed and we might say, "Are we a bit weird?"
I mean, I think we probably are a bit weird.
Yeah.
I don't know any other couples that are interested. I don't know very many people who are interested in this, full stop. And I don't know any couples who are. Now, obviously, there are many couples out there. We just don't know any.
Yeah.
Which does make me feel like we are a little bit strange.
Yeah. I mean, when we got together, that wasn't like a key part. I mean, I started talking about non-duality, and just to say, Alex bought me this T-shirt. You get me like a new one of these every year. We've got
not the same one.
What was the other ones?
Well, you've got one that says like "Just Be."
Just Be. She's got me this mug.
One. Yeah.
Just Be.
I
got her a witchy one. She's a witch.
Funny, I bought that for myself.
Oh, she got that for herself.
Yeah.
But anyway, so back to, but it didn't start out like that, but it's developed. I think a big reason that it's gone this way, though, has actually been a result of our commitment to do the work, as it were. Because so early on we had the honeymoon phase, which was lovely, and then our respective patterns, attachment wounds, etc., started coming out. And I'd done a few things previously where it was like, okay, it's so important to take responsibility for your feelings. It's more important. You've got to be willing to lose someone else rather than lose yourself. Now, that doesn't mean your ego self, but it means you've got to be true to what your intuition telling you, even if it's hard. So early on in our relationship, I remember there was the train journey where we were both triggered. So I was a bit avoidant. Alex was a bit anxious.
A bit.
And anyway, but we didn't say anything at the time. And then the next day, I knew that I had to say something about how I felt. Not like, "Oh, you've made me feel this way," and I did. And it was hard. Like both of us were upset. But it started the ball rolling in terms of both of us taking responsibility for our own patterns. And I think we've got much more skillful at separating out, okay, what's yours? What's mine? We can definitely trigger each other in that way, but it's allowed us, I feel, it's a safer space then for those things to come up and for us to be with them, and allowed them to perhaps soften. I mean, it's still an ongoing process, right? And then in the process of that, that definitely, I think, contributed to, for example, your energetic gifts blooming.
Definitely. And I think that because I'm anxious and you're avoidant, this anxious avoidant trap that people tell you can't work, doesn't work, get out, it's not true. It's like rocket fuel for self-development. And I did 5 years of psychotherapy.
Thankfully, he would, and I initially it was couples therapy, right?
Yeah.
And the guy was, I mean, he happened to have a bit of a spiritual outlook as well.
I love him. He was like an angel sent into my life. And he, doing that psychotherapy and really digging deep into patterns and things, you unlock so many things within yourself. And I think that when you really embrace the process, you naturally become more drawn to this sort of thing. And as you say, he did have a spiritual slant to him, which I think was really important. And during that time, I started my meditation practice. I then was called to do my Reiki, and things, like synchronicity. Different things get put on your path. And I've been very lucky with the kind of weird things that have happened to me. When I talk to you about it, you're like, "Oh yeah," and we have normal conversations. Like sometimes I'll wake up in the morning and I'll be like, "Oh, I was out of body this morning, and I went to the moon," and ridiculous things. And he's like, "Oh ridiculous. No," like, "Oh, interesting." Whereas I think that
it must be quite lonely, I think, to walk this on your own within.
But it is. It's lonely. The people say the spiritual path is very lonely anyway. Never mind if your partner isn't on it too. Like I think that probably for us that would be a deal breaker.
Yeah. I mean, initially the deal breaker was just not being open to do the work, wasn't it? Which started out as psychotherapy, because as you said, like you were resistant. You saw it as a failure, but then opening to that, became aware of a lot of patterns, for example, that you had been previously unaware of. So that was how it started, and then it's sort of gone into this more spiritual, and I know that's a loaded word, way of things. And I think we bring something quite different to it, don't we? I think I would say you're the heart and I'm the head. Not to say, I'm more intelligent. Like you're at least as intelligent, maybe a bit less, but but like so, but so I like talking and explaining, whereas you have those feelings side, the energetic side that I don't have. And I remember you said about the meditation. I was very jealous. We did it at a similar time, and my hands would open like that. Whereas you were like, yeah, my head was on the ceiling, I lost my body, and then actually stopped me doing it.
See colours, and then I went through a period when I would hear voices and I'd write down what they were saying, and I was like channeling and all this sort of thing. And I thought this was a very normal thing that happens to everybody in meditation, and it turns out that it isn't.
Yeah.
And I sent so many people to do the same meditation course because I was like, just wait till your head feels like it's not on your body anymore. And everyone's like, what?
Yeah.
But I think that I feel things, and you're more of a philosopher around it. That I am not going to sit down and read a book like that on non-duality like you are. I'll leave my body and go and see what it's like, but I'm not going to read the book. I love reading books, but I'm more into like witchy stuff and tarot and Reiki and energetics. I'm not like the actual theory of it.
Yeah,
is more your bag.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and that's why we want to do these videos, right? I think if you go on, when I go on YouTube, there are so many individual people talking, particularly men, up on a stage. Someone said sages on stages and talking in that way, and I feel like bringing the yin and the yang, those two different aspects, like that could potentially add something a bit fresh and new, because we keep each other in check a bit, or rather you keep me in check a bit, but also like bringing those two aspects, it feels more whole in that way than just like having a guy, not to knock anyone, but talking in that way.
Yeah, I think that it's like life. It is, you need the feminine, you need the masculine. It's two sides of the same coin, and if you ignore the other side of the coin, you are missing quite literally half of the stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So just wondering, there was something I wanted to say, but I've forgotten it, so maybe I'll save that for another video. I mean, what I would just say is that, so I do like talking to people about it, and I think there's real value in that, and that you can experience it though. Like I'm able to experience it through investigation, but obviously like you have that energetic stuff, for example, with Reiki or whatever stuff you do, that can be so experiential and feeling based, which I think is really beautiful and powerful. Anything you want to add before we bid adieu?
No.
All right. Anyway, thank you
for watching.
Thank you for watching. Yes, please do leave some comments and questions in the comments, and subscribe if you haven't already. All right. Thank you. Bye.